Oh, Mets fans, there we go. First and foremost, if I lag at all to begin the live stream, I promise it'll go away in 4 to 5 minutes once it's been live, so be patient. I greatly appreciate that of my replay viewers. But how we doing, everybody? How amazing this evening is. The Metsies went out. They did that. They secured this series victory in Chicago, in Wrigley, against those Cubbies by a final score of 8 to 5. I gotta see those W's spin right here, right now. Every other day with this Mets team is the same. Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. Another day, another dramatic victory for the Amazons. There was bad funnies by the Cubbies today. There were a lot of things that weren't necessarily great, but there was also a lot of fantastic things that we saw from this ball game. Noah McLean's final line, if you did not watch this ball game, you probably say to yourself, oh no, McLean got rocked, but he really didn't. He dominated. In the same game that McLean gives up a career-high 5 earned runs is the same day that he goes out and secures himself the most strikeouts in an outing in his young career that we just saw there, everybody. Nolan, we're going to talk a lot about what we love from him today. Even in a day where he still found himself giving up 5 earned runs, he was utterly dominant. That is looking like the Mets' Game 1 wildcard starter should they make postseason, because, folks, the boys are still alive. They still control their playoff destiny. On the same day that the Miami Marlins are officially eliminated from postseason contention is the same day that the Mets secure a massive series victory, all while the Cincinnati Reds try to gain ground but were not able to do it. The Reds held on to a 2-0 victory thanks to a game-tying robbery of a home run rob by Mr. Noelvi Marte in right field against Brian Reynolds. If that didn't happen, we would have potentially seen the Mets up more than a game on the Reds, but they're still a full game up right now in the wild card. The Diamondbacks are 2 out right now. The Giants, we know, are out of it. So right now it comes down to Cincy, comes down to Arizona, and this Mets team winning baseball games, everybody. The Mets offense came to play in this one, as we're about to break down some exciting things to get into in this one. How the bats certainly balled out. Listen, the Mets showed up early and often. This was a ball game where you needed 2 guys to step up, most importantly, that have not stepped up on the road this season. That is Francisco Lindor and Brett Baty. Lindor entered this series against the Cubs with an actual OPS of 667 on the road and batting just 211. The Mets have been in dire need of someone like Lindor to actually step up at the plate on the road the way that he has done all season all season long at home there that we've seen rocking my girl and Ain't No Mountain High Enough. Listen, you don't need the songs that have the vibes, and Francisco Lindor, Hemdor, smacking his 30th home run this season, is now just the second Met in team franchise history to have multiple 30-30 seasons with 30 home runs or 30 stolen bags or more. Things we love to see. Brett Baty entered the series with a 570 OPS on the road. And what did Brett Baty do today, everybody? Brett Baty proved exactly why this man needs to be the everyday third baseman. The fact that we continue this seesaw is beyond me. It shouldn't happen, yet it has found itself happening. But even then, even with Mark Vientos being as much of a defensive blunder as he was yesterday, it does not matter. Brett Baty steps up massively, makes some gorgeous barehanded plays at third, even having Noah McLean like, ooh and ah, what was that? You're getting great defense from Brett. You're getting Brett Bonds at the plate as he smacked one, a massive 3-run ding-dong, as we're going to summarize and break down everything that transpired in this 8-5 victory. Not just how big of a victory this is for the Mets tonight, but ultimately the Mets continuing their winning ways now, everybody. A lot of key takeaways in a night where Francisco Alvarez wasn't even in your starting lineup, and this has so much more to do with just wanting to make sure that Alvy was healthy. We know Alvy's been banged up all year long for the most part, and he unfortunately was cramping up towards the end of last night's game, which is why he did not start today. While I didn't love that, and while I would have preferred him at DH when he has an 1800 OPS at Wrigley Field and 5 home runs in 7 games there, I really can't complain all that much because the bats came to play. And a day where Alvy wasn't even in your starting lineup, it simply did not matter. And even in a day where Noah McLean somehow, some way gives up 5 earned runs and not even 6 innings, and it does not matter. There are a lot of really good positives from this series victory, everybody. Now the Mets after this will get set for the final series of the year that'll dictate postseason play. They're facing Sandy Alcantara, Edward Cabrera, Yuri Perez, exactly like I assumed heading into that matchup. It's do or die time in Mets land, everybody, but it's time for the Mets to continue to show up. Frank Sessa, thank you so much for the $2 holla. I really do appreciate that. Everybody continue to spam those W's as you're chiming in live at a replay. I want to see from each and every one of you how you're feeling after such a big series victory like this. Listen, last night was deflating, but they need the victory today. They had to secure the victory today. This felt like a do or die ball game. Every game feels like Game 7 of the World Series for this Mets team down the stretch, and that is what we thankfully got in a victorious fashion in this series victory. Aaron Jacobs, great member of 5 months, says, we always struggle versus Marlins. We have to bring it. Yes, we do. We most certainly do. The Mets on the road entering this series were 15 games below 500. The Mets still have a horrendous road record, and they have had a lot of Jekyll and Hyde games against a Marlins team that thankfully officially got bounced from postseason play today, because I know they're fully anticipating to play spoiler against this Mets team, but just think of how much worse it would have been if they were still somehow, some way afloat in the playoff race heading into that final series of the season. So we don't have to worry about that, but we do have to worry about the reality. The Miami Marlins are going to do everything in their power to play spoiler against this Mets team, and you can't blame them. I don't blame them, but my response to that is, F you, let's go fry those fish sticks, and let's get our ass in a postseason play. Pardon my French, everybody. Shout out to every single one of you. Hitting that like and subscribe button on your way, and folks, help us get to 35,000 subscribers. We're less than 200 away, and we're giving away a jersey to one lucky subscriber on the platform just for joining our amazing community here, everybody. Just hit those buttons, be on the lookout on the community tab, and in future announcements and live streams once we make that giveaway happen. We've already given away a bunch of Mets jerseys this season. Juan Soto, Brennan Nimmo, Brett Beatty, you name it, and we're going to give away more. And Brett the Hitman was a story of the day, but guys, there was one bat that stood out today that has separated himself from others, and that is Tyrone Taylor in the outfield. T2, who had a run-saving throw from center yesterday, has himself a 2-run double today. Tyrone Taylor already doing more over the past 24 hours than what Cedric Mullins and Jose Siri have done over the past 2+ weeks combined. That is how low the bar has been, but how important the resurgence and the return of Tyrone Taylor, TT as we love to call him, most certainly is. Dave with the $5 holla, thank you so much, my guy. We hold on to the win. LFGM, thank you so much for being in here. As I mentioned, everybody, if I am lagging at all, I sincerely apologize. It may happen a little on and off, but it should be done for the most part, everybody. KCB with the donation, then let's break it down, then let's get into the jingle, baby. All the Mets have to do is beat Miami in the last series of the year. And Sandy Alcantara, why am I not confident in this? Well, you're not confident because Sandy's carved us up both times we faced him this season. That's why you're not confident. Why does this feel like the ultimate trap? Because it has all the makings to being a trap series for this Mets team. The Mets need to go out and show out the way that they just did against this Cubs team there in Wrigley. The Mets bats not only came to play, but they had a respectable 3 for 7 with runners in scoring position. Not sexy, not too much, not too little, just right when you're looking at the batting average here, everybody. But folks, as we always do after every big victory throughout the course of the 162, and we're going to do things different. I'm going to listen to a follower of mine because I saw a good amount of likes in my comments yesterday, and someone said, Wardy, don't rock the lobster. When was the last time the Mets have won consecutive ball games, even with the lobster? Maybe it isn't as much good luck as you hoped. And my response to that is, okay, that's fine. Let's rock with something new. And I think a perfect way to rock with something new, everybody, would be to rock with what is unfortunately a broken yet still stable Francisco Lindor bobblehead, because Himdor stepped up big time today, getting the bomb early for this Mets team to set the standard for what we expect in this ball game. We're going to rock a little bobblehead dance. We're rocking with Himdor today as the Mets secure this 8-5 victory. So spam those W's, everybody. Let's get the hype going, and let's let it rip as we always do with the one, the only, the official WardyNYM post-game jingle, baby. Let's do this. Let's go. Shout out to my guys, Greg and Jordan, as always, with the WardyNYM post-game jingle. It's silly, it's goofy, it's corny in all the right ways, and we had to rock our Lindor bobblehead that, yes, has a severed arm right now. Don't worry about it. We'll get that puppy super glue. That happened a month ago. All my bobbleheads fell behind me, and that one was the biggest casualty. Jacob deGrom's bobblehead, which, yes, I do have from his Cy Young Award-winning seasons, got crooked, but I fixed it, so it's okay, everybody. And in case you don't believe me, how you doing? He's right there. Or, I mean, he still looks a little crooked, but it's better than what it previously was. Okay, you guys get the drill. You know what to expect. We got a ball game to break down. We got a series victory to get into, but as I mentioned, for the Mets to do what they just did today was massive. We have seen this team roll over and die constantly on the road this season, and to see a guy like Lindor, to see a guy like Beatty, it's not overly surprising to see these guys step up, but for them to do it on the road when they have not done that on the road this season is what makes this that much more important. So massive shout out to Brett the Hitman, Brett Bonds Beatty with the 3-run Ding Don Oppo Taco, mind you, as well as Lindor to get the party started today. These are things we most certainly appreciate. So everybody, I want to see on everybody in the chat, who is your player of the game for the New York Mets today? I'm going to share mine as we get later on in this breakdown, not just on this big victory today, but ultimately this series victory for the Mets. Who is my pitcher of the series as well as batter of the series? We are going to get into that a little bit later into the show here, everybody. Thank you so much for the donations. Kevin, he says, does Mendoza finally stick to Beatty, the real true third baseman? It's been extremely annoying seeing Mark Vientos out there and cost runs literally every game. Yeah, I don't disagree with you, and I think if Brett Beatty's not starting the next 3 games at third base for the Mets, they have a massive problem, especially when you look at the pitching matchups, because you can't even say it's like, oh, you don't want Brett to face the lefty, even though that doesn't make sense in today's game because Brett has hit lefties, but just to play devil's advocate, no, you're facing Sandy, you're facing Yuri, and you're facing there and Cabrera. You have zero excuses when it comes to Brett Beatty. Should he be starting every day at third base or not? He is this team's third baseman. He has always been this team's third baseman, if you guys haven't caught the drift by now. Every single game this season, Brett Beatty, with the exception of maybe 2 games where he had a little bit of a blunder, that was more at second base than just third defensively, he has been the go-to guy that we have seen at the hot quarter. He has exemplified above league average defense, and he's been a well above league average batter here in the second half this season. Brett Beatty has all the makings in a full season of being a 5+ WAR player. I think what Beatty is continuing to do down the stretch for this Mets team is going to show his value and will be exactly why Brett Beatty, barring changes, will be this Mets third baseman next season, while one or multiple Mark Vientos, Luis Angel Acuna, Ronnie Mauricio are parted with. And I don't have an ill will against them personally, but it's common sense. If you guys think the Mets are going to run it back next year with this same infield group, I got a bridge to sell you. You got Jet Williams waiting in the wings. You got a lot of other guys, including Jacob Reimer, who has blossomed massively, that we've seen as a third base DH option for this team as well. They have players waiting in the wings to hit the league sooner rather than later, and we have an abundance of riches with young infield players. However, we do know that we do not necessarily need all these infielders right now. We have a bit of a logjam. So as we get into next season, everybody, think about this. Who is going to provide you most value when it comes to offense and defense? No one even touches what Brett Beatty is doing right now on both sides of the ball, and that is a simple fact. Thank you so much, Kevin, with the donation. I appreciate that a lot. Shout out to our amazing sponsors, as always, at SeatGeek, that has you covered for all of your ticketing needs, everybody. You guys know the drill by now, but in case you don't, let me enlighten you. Head over there to SeatGeek and utilize our promo code WARDY10. That way you too get 10% off your next ticket purchase, everybody. Whether you want to get in on the final slate of Mets games, maybe you're a Mets fan that lives in Florida, what feels like every New Yorker that goes out to retire. If you're one of those that will be attending this 3-game set there at Lone Depot Park, I implore you to utilize our promo code WARDY10, link down below, because you're going to save some dough and you're going to get 10% off your next ticket purchase, all because your guy Wardy sent you. So thank you so much in advance for that. If you want to get in the NFL scene, the NHL scene, with preseason now here, NBA right around the corner, you name it, we got you covered with all things ticketing here with our great friends at SeatGeek. They have over 70,000 active events to choose from, so I'm going to go on a limb and say you guys can utilize it for something. The #1 rated ticketing app in the game today for a reason. Mad Team Parents, how we doing, baby? Thank you so much for the donation. Sean, thank you for the dono. I'm going to break it down, and then I got to break down this ball game because I'm really happy. There are so many positives, honestly, to take away. Not too many negatives. There were a couple, and we'll get into what those were, but even in a day where Nolan McLain didn't have his best stuff, he still kind of had his best stuff. He was unhittable for this Cubs team outside of basically 3 different swings that got out of the ballpark. You know, this start honestly reminded me a bit of Joe Natan's start against the Cincinnati Reds, where Ton still went 6 innings, gave up 4 hits, and gave up 3 hits or so, and that led to 4 earned runs because they were all via the long ball with the fastball up in the zone for the most part. And even McLain pitched far greater than what we saw Ton do then, because Ton didn't strike out 11 batters, and Cincy, the way that we saw McLain still strike out 11 batters for a career high, not just a career high, everybody, but he struck out more batters than any other Mets starter struck out batters this season. In case you guys need to figure out, who was the ace of this Mets team, look no further than Mr. Nolan McLain. Mad Team with the $5. Thank you, brother. He says, don't want to see Swaggy at third base for the rest of the season. I don't care who the pitcher is. I don't even mind Acuna at second base. Defense. Defense. Yeah, I mean, listen, I just want a healthy balance. That's all I care about. All I care about is putting the guys out there that are going to put this Mets team in the greatest path to win. Sean with the $2. Thank you so much. I will not tolerate Vientos hate. This isn't Vientos hate. It's just common sense. This is not a slight on Mark personally. It's the reality. He's not a good defender. Hasn't been a good defender all year. He's literally one of, if not the worst defensive third baseman in all Major League Baseball. And while we can sit here and say, oh, it's because of X, Y, and Z, at the end of the day, it's because of his lack of performance. And that's why he's a true standalone DH. So what do we want to see? What does the average Mets fan want to see right now? Vientos at DH every day, Beatty at third every day, Jeff at second, if not Jeff at center, the way that we saw Tyrone Taylor play today. I'm not sure if we need to put Jeff at center in the immediate future. And when we talk about the pitching, everybody, I'm going to ask you guys your final line grades for Nolan McLain here in a couple minutes, so don't give them to me yet. Wait a little bit and then give them to me once we break down McLain's outing today. But for McLain to do what he did and for the bullpen to do what they did, lots to love about this bullpen. Brooks Raley, the one thing I'm grateful for on an every single day basis, no matter how good or how bad my day is going personally as a Mets fan, is knowing that I'm going to be okay in the end, knowing that Brooks Raley has a club option for the 2026 season, meaning that unless David Stearns goes cheaper than he's ever had before, we are going to see Mr. Brooks Raley return, barring changes for the 2026 year. And that is massive, because the Mets don't have many certainties of options right now when we evaluate their bullpen heading into next season, but Brooks Raley is at least one of them, and that is absolutely a great thing as he casually struck out the side later on this ballgame. Speaking of striking out the side, Nolan McLain did that himself today as well. So let's get into this one, everybody, because the party started early for the Mets. We saw Lindor with a leadoff walk, then Alonso with his 39th double this season after Soto flew out, and then right away it's 1-0 Mets because we see somehow, some way, and yes, the Cubs challenged us. I don't know what in God's name they were challenging here. You know, I'm going to go on a limb and say that it was Dansby Swanson's fault for kind of, tumbling into the foul territory netting there, which is what he did. He tried to make the play, couldn't do it. Tossed it in the infield, and then before you know it, we found the Mets up 1-0. They took advantage of the defensive blunder there that Dansby was trying to make a great play in the foul territory. Didn't happen. Instead, Mets are quickly up 1-0, taking advantage of some bad fundies. And then WardyNYM says, let's get in on the hit parade, everybody. I know that you got some good hits. Now it's time for me to get a good hit, that being in Brandon, as Nimmo drives in the second run of the ball game to make it 2-0 just in the snap of a finger like that, everybody. And mind you, we're going to get into Nolan McLain if I didn't say it sooner. McLain got absolutely screwed on what should have been a foul ball that they ruled a ground rule double earlier today. And if that didn't happen, who knows what McLain's final line will be. We're going to get more into that, but trust me, I'm well aware of it. I was just as pissed off as everyone else when we saw it transpire. Peter with a $2 haul, thank you so much. He states, great member. Let's cook some fish tomorrow. Yeah, absolutely. I'm starving for some marlin. All right, let's get into this. In the bottom of the second, guys, we would see right away 2-out double for Ian Happ, his 32nd this season, but that's all she wrote. McLain works out of it like the bulldog that is by striking out Ballesteros. As we get into the second inning, nothing for the Mets, nothing for the Cubs, as we would see Nolan McLain strike out the side, including a fastball up and in as the final out of the inning on, yes, you guessed it, Pico Armstrong. As we get into the third inning, we would see after a Luis Angel Acuna strikeout, who got the rare start at second base today, Francisco Lindor, it's high, it's far, and it is is gone. Lindor's 30th home run this season makes it now a 3-0 Mets lead, and that number 3 would be important because 3-3-3, 3 runs for the Mets, 30 home runs for Lindor, and 30 stolen bags for now his second 30-30 season as a New York Met. He joins just one other New York Met in that regard, and that is going to be, drum roll please, just to make sure I have the following statistic correct, as I don't want to say something that's inaccurate here. He joins, yes, you guessed it, everybody, Mr. Hojo Howard Johnson as the only Mets to have multiple 30-30 seasons in their tenure as a New York Met there. He now also joins Juan Soto as becoming the first pair that we've seen with a 30-30 season together with stolen bags and home runs since Darryl Strawberry and Mr. Hojo himself back in 1987. It has been a long time since the Mets have had two 30-30 players, and who would have thought that in the first year with Juan Soto on this team that he would be leading the team in stolen bags? I still can't fathom it. I get it. It's because of great jumps, great base running, and how the game has changed with base running over the past 2 seasons with the rules, but I still cannot fathom the reality that Soto's on pace for 40 stolen bags this year. It's absolutely insane. Yet here we are, everybody. But Lindor, congratulations to him on another 30-30 season. We know that Lindor hitting 25 to 30 home runs and north of 100 RBIs is a lock every single season. I say north because he might not get to 100 this year, and that's okay if he doesn't, but he's currently right now, when we take a look at Lindor, at 84 RBIs. He'll probably finish the season with, if he could have a big series in Miami, maybe we can get him to 90. If not, still a great season. And the best part about that pitch that we saw was a meatball inside thrown by Mr. Shota Imanaga going a little 91. I'm sorry, meatball inside. It's pulled 107 off the bat, 408 feet. Yeah, you're loving what you're seeing. And Mr. Shota Imanaga there serving up a meatball to Francisco Lindor. That does it there for the inning, everybody. And like you, I'm ecstatic. The Mets are up early 3-0 with your ace on the mound. I got to be completely honest with you guys. There have been many games this season that I've said to myself as a fan that, oh, there's not a chance now the Mets are even going to win this game, even while having a multi-run lead, just because you know it's going to collapse eventually. Not today. I did not have truly a doubt even for a second. Even when the Cubs made it a 3-run ball game here, I still said to myself, no, I think we still got it in the bag. It just didn't feel as comfortable. And Noel McLean does everything to make you feel comfortable, even in a day where, again, he had far from his sharpest stuff. It's crazy to say that still because he struck out 11 batters. He was bananas today. Dave with a $5 haul. Love you, Dave. You said hook and fry the fish now. Reel them in. I know. We're all going fishing this weekend, everybody. Get your asses Miami if you haven't already. We're going to go catch some marlin. In the 4th inning, guys, we would see, what do we see? A WardyNYM went out single. A Luis Torrens single because Louis always getting on base, even when Alvy isn't playing. No problem. With 2 on, less than 2 out. It's high, it's far, and it is gone. The biggest home run of the night. 2 nights ago was Alvy. Yesterday it was Alvy. I mean, Nimmo was actually 2 nights ago was the biggest home run. Then it was Alvy. Yesterday it was Alvy. Today it's another youngster. It's the Hitman. It's the Bonds. It's the Beatty. He goes Oppo Taco. Brett Beatty. First he makes some gorgeous barehanded plays there at third base. Then he goes opposite field there off a Shota on the lefty-lefty matchup. So impressive. So damn good. Brett Beatty continues to look like a stellar infield option for the Mets. Not just for the second half of the season, but hopefully, God willing, all of the 2026 season and beyond. Beatty smacked his 18th home run this season, everybody. He's 2 shy from his first 20th home run, 20th home run season of his young career. Shout out Brett Beatty, who now has 50 RBIs on the season officially, 18 home runs. All things considered, we're taking that to the bank, especially for a Brett Beatty who didn't necessarily get off to the sharpest start all year long. We saw him go through the ebbs and flows. You saw him sent down, literally right after hitting a walk-off, not a walk-off, but a home run, pull the right side off Zach Wheeler in the first half of the season. I was in attendance for that ball game when the Mets swept the Phillies for their 7-0 homestand to begin the season. It was amazing. Unfortunately, I haven't had too many of those vibes since, everybody. Let's see. Wardy says, Alan, time to put up and shut up now and try to exercise the Marlins issue that plagued us since 2007. I'm keeping my mouth shut. I'm glad you are, Alan. I appreciate that comment there. Nolan, great member, 52 months. Squish the fish. I'm loving the wordplay today, guys. Keep it up. Keep it going. Whatever it's going to take down the big bad Marlins. And I say big bad Marlins because the Marlins have still left it around and won 11 of their past 13 games or so. They played red-hot baseball towards the end of this season. They deserve massive kudos for that. And we know we despise the Marlins. Marlins. So I'm not at all going into this series cocky. I'm going into this unbelievably cautiously optimistic, but hopeful and really striving to see a series victory. I'm not expecting a sweep, but we need a series dub in Miami. Without a series dub, it's hard to envision this team making postseason play. I could be wrong, but I think we can all agree it feels far-fetched. As we continue on, everybody, and the bottom of the fourth inning, after the Mets make it 6-0, Seiya Suzuki takes a changeup that was just hung a little too much down the pipe by Nolan, and that would be his 28th home run of the year there. Seiya, what a Super Saiyan home run for Suzuki, who makes it a 6-1 Cubs deficit. So slowly but surely, they're starting to tack away. After we would see that, we would see chip away, rather. We would see Mets get nothing at the top of the fifth inning because Juan Soto was robbed of, yes, you guessed it, Pete Armstrong making a highlight reel catch there on the warning track. You know, I looked at that, I said, of course, it's not like the Mets would need exactly like something like this in the outfield right now, but listen, as much as we can talk about missing PCA, what could have been with the Mets, let's talk about what actually was today and Tyrone Taylor's great play, because TT was a key standout in this lap and defensively has been far from a liability in a couple games since returning, obviously. Speaking of PCA, something that he loves to do, especially in the second half, is striking out every day of the week, and he struck out for the second time tonight that we saw there in the bottom of the fifth inning to lead off the inning. Afterwards, Dansby Swanson would get all that one opposite field, unfortunately. The former Atlanta Braves still a foe to this Mets team, as he would make it a 6-2 Cubs deficit there to right center. And then we would see a strikeout on Matt Shaw, a Michael Busch ground out, and we're through 5. In the 6th, Brett Beatty with a 2-out single that there's 2 on after Nimmo got on with a 1-out single, and Tyrone Taylor came to play. As we mentioned, TT rips himself a big double there that we would see to center that makes it an 8-2 Mets lead. That number 8 would be crucial because without Tyrone Taylor today, do the Mets even win this ball game? It's hard to see, because then it would have been a 1-run ball game, 6-5, and who knows if the Cubs maybe would have had added momentum, added juice to really get all the way back in this one, and maybe the Mets would have been shaking their boots too much and it became a 1-run ball game. Thankfully, that didn't happen because the boys were able to shut the door down after McClain gave up the following. He gives up again the double there, the ground rule double to Bistero, the slowest mofo that you'll see on the field today for the Cubs or the Mets, mind you, looking like Peter Griffin going first or second. He gets in there when it was clearly a foul ball, yet somehow, someway, 1, it wasn't challenged, and 2, they called it what it is. So we're all about to lose our mind. I'm about to pull my hair out because I get it, the Mets still have a sizable lead, but all it takes is one swing to completely change the complexion of this ball game, and lo and behold, what happens seconds later? That's exactly what happens. After getting absolutely screwed there, that we would see, after we see getting screwed on that ground rule double call, Noah McClain, he then gives up a 3-run ding-dong to Seiya Suzuki. That would be Seiya's second home run tonight, an absolutely torched baseball. He first takes for a called strike on a sweeper, a little up and in. Second one, sweeper, same exact pitch, and it's gone. I don't know why Nolan went back-to-back sweepers there, same exact placement, but he did, and we saw Seiya Suzuki make him pay. Mind you, Seiya hasn't had the home run swing nearly as much lately, let alone 2 home runs in a game, but he smacked his 29th home run of the year that put the Cubbies right back in this one. It's an 8-5 ball game, but as you guys see from the final score, that's how this ball game ended. So thankfully, it still swings in the Mets' favor. PCA had himself a little garbage time single. It doesn't matter. They don't do anything with it, and garbage time was the wrong wordplay there. That's usually when a team is up by a lot, not down by 3 still, so I digress. In the top of the 7th, it's a 1-2-3, back-to-back strikeouts against the Mets, and Soto and Alonso. In the bottom of the 7th inning, we see Brooks Raley come in. Brooks Raley, my favorite reliever that's not named Edwin Diaz, my dog, the guy that I was longing for to return all season long, has been as advertised since returning. The most reliable reliever option in this bullpen, not named Edwin Diaz. It's not particularly close right now, for being honest with you. He strikes out Matt Shaw. He strikes out the Beard and Justin Turner, and he strikes out Nico Horner without a problem. 1, 2, 3, sit your ass down and get out of here. Brooks Raley continues his utter dominance that we have seen this season, everybody. Mets now head to the 8th inning where they don't do anything offensively. They go down right away. Michael Soroka literally carves them up in a second. It was actually impressive how quick that inning was. Pissed me off, is what it is. In the bottom of the 8th inning, Tyler Rogers secures the 1-2-3. A Tyler Rogers who has been far from necessarily dominant every single time out there for the Mets, coming off of an outing where he wasn't as sharp as that we saw. Unfortunately, walked a batter that hurt him in the end. Outside of that, though, we have seen a lot of good in Tyler Rogers, and I love the submariner. I love the upside, and like Brooks Raley, he too is a reliever that I hope to see return this Mets team. Raley's a certainty for the most part, but when it comes to someone in Tyler Rogers, not a lock. It'll be more on the Mets' willingness to bring him back and obviously trying to find the right deal. I think Rogers has definitely done enough to warrant returning this Mets team. I'm curious if you guys feel the same or different there, because Rogers gets himself a 1-2-3 as we head to the 9th inning, and Tyrone Taylor said, I didn't hear no bell. This game ain't over yet. He saws one off opposite field. It was so awkward, yet it worked, and it stayed fair there for Seiya Suzuki in shallow right, and Tyrone is on with a leadoff single for Luis Angel Acuna, who, mind you, has not been in the lineup much at all, yet gets a 3-1 breaking ball to put himself on base with a walk. Lindor then would fly out, and Soto strikes out, but not before the Mets still have themselves at least a 3-run lead for Edwin Diaz, the same Edwin Diaz who secured the 6-out save just the other day. Now he gives up a leadoff single to Carson Kelly. After the leadoff single, PCA there with the fly out, and he thought he had his 30th home run of the season. Yeah, maybe next time, buddy. Not tonight. Dansby Swanson doing what he's done best for the Cubs since signing that very extensive and very expensive contract with the Cubbies, and he grounds into a game-ending double play. Shout out Dansby, shout out Cubbies, and shout out the Mets for securing the 2-out-of-3 game victory of a series. Let's see, D, thank you so much for the $5 holla. I appreciate that a lot. We got our guy Dave in the chat here, $5 holla. Is marlin an edible fish? It is starting tomorrow, my friend. Even if they say you can't eat it, by God, we're going to eat it, and we're going to eat that bad boy up. I don't care if you guys don't like fish. I quite literally don't care. We are all eating solely marlin tomorrow. If you are not ready to eat up marlin tomorrow, then do not show up to the post-game show. Obviously, show up, win, lose, or draw. I'm just talking nonsense here, but you get the point that I'm trying to make. I also got to say right away, everybody, how impressed I was by this Mets bullpen. Yet again, this Mets bullpen continues to really step up as of late. And listen, the Mets have been in dire need of getting consistency with their pitching. We know this rotation has been in utter shambles with everyone not named Noel McLean, and Noel McLean still had a bad start on paper today from what we saw. Still, that does not reflect how he actually performed. We all can agree. We all saw it with our very eyes. McLean was nasty today. We saw him utilize that sweeper 29% of the time, had a couple strikeouts. Sinker 26% of the time, had a couple strikeouts. Four-seam 15% of the time, had a strikeout. Curveball 14% of the time, had 6 strikeouts. So that curveball was that bread and butter of that big swing and miss pitch tonight. The cutter and the changeup didn't get any strikeouts here, but that's okay. Noel McLean, again, everybody, not his best start, but in a lot of ways, I really loved what I saw from him. So that's why we're going to go back to talking a bit more on Noel McLean, everybody, and get into what the key standout was with him today. Not just on what I just relayed with those pitches on the usage, but let's also get into the RPMs, because the spin rates with Mr. Noel McLean is what separates him from the rest, and is exactly why he gets so much comfortable swing and miss at the major league level right now. It's because you think you're getting a four-seam fastball, but no, that puppy's going to cut down and away in 2 seconds, and you just have no clue until it's past you. You know, Nolan's one of these guys I think is going to continue to quickly separate himself from good pitchers to great pitchers in baseball if he's able to continue not only the confidence he has on the mound, but his ability to rebound. You know, say what you will about McLean looking tired towards the end there. You can make the argument that Mendy left him out there a little too long. But when you bear in mind the amount of pitches that he threw, and also knowing that this was his final regular season start of the year, you know, I think it goes without saying, but I don't think it was a terrible move to keep McLean in this ball game. You know, maybe, just maybe you could have said to yourself, you take him out after that ground rule double, but that's more on him getting absolutely screwed by the umps than it is anyone else, you know? So it's unfortunate with him giving up that second home run to Seiya Suzuki, but even then, I thought we saw a lot of good from Noel McLean today. And when speaking of the spin rate and the RPMs, everybody, we saw that sweeper that he sat right around 86 miles per hour on, and sat also 2,100 on the spin rate, 2,900 rather, far more impressive than 21 for his sweeper. The sinker, which he was sitting right around 95 on and topped out 97 on the velocity, sat right around 2,200 on the spin rate. The four-seam fastball, which he was topping out 97 and sat 96 there, was at 2,200 on the spin rate. The curveball, which he was sitting right around 80 miles per hour on, was at 3,300 on the spin rate for the average. The cutter that he threw, what we saw topping out right around 93, sitting right around 92, and was at 26 to 2,700 on the spin rate, and then changeup that he threw just a couple times. You're not looking for spin there. Sat right around 1,500, everybody. But Nolan McClain today, even in a day where he gave up 5 hits, 5 earned runs, I'm giving Nolan a rock solid 6.5 out of 10. I do not think that his final line at all is indicative of really how good I thought he looked. Yes, had some burnout towards the end for sure. I'm not going to say you're wrong there, but in that same breath, you have to look at the dominance that was McClain today, and I thought that was very good. So you guys let me know, to everybody watching live on a replay, how would you grade Nolan McClain's final line here on a scale of 1 to 10? Like I said, I'm going 6.5 here for Nolan. Some of you guys have 7. Some of you guys have 7.5. I think that's all relative. I think that's all fair and good. I think we're all in similar like-mindedness there. When we look at the bullpen was absolutely stellar. Stanek getting the job done again is massive. Raley, oh my Raley. I'm loving me some Raley today. Raley, this bullpen, they gave us 4.2 scoreless innings, allowed just 2 hits, struck out 3, did not walk a single batter. Yeah, bullpen gets an easy 9 out of 10 today. Bullpen gets a fantastic 9 out of 10 today. Bullpen gets such a damn good grade that I look back on what this bullpen has done this series especially, I'm really, really taken back, because outside of like the Dickie Love ladies of the world, we got a lot of good production for the most part that we saw from these relievers. Yesterday wasn't as ideal, obviously, in that 10-3 loss, but it also doesn't help when Jonathan's out of here in 2 innings right away. And then Minaya, Minaya is one of those guys where, yes, we can view him as a reliever now, but I don't put him in necessarily the same class as a typical reliever as the others, because he just got thrown in the bullpen last week. So if we exclude Manaya's incompetence by giving up a meatball to Michael Busch as soon as he came in the ball game yesterday, the bullpen in general looked pretty damn good this entire series. And that 9-7 victory there, game 1, that's all David Peterson getting rocked early. And then we saw Gregory Soto give up a run, and that's it. So the bullpen, guys, who is my pitcher of the series, looking at every single game in the series between securing game 1 9-7, losing yesterday 10-3, securing the W today 8-5? There are an abundance of pitchers that I can look at and say to myself that, oh yeah, this was the key story of the series. But guys, there is no pitcher, in my humble opinion, that was greater and more vital to the Mets in securing these victories than Mr. Edwin Sugar Diaz. And I think it goes without saying, for Diaz to strike out 5 effing batters on 6 attempts that we saw in game 1, for him to secure the dub the way that he did today as well. I mean, Edwin continues to showcase exactly why he's going to get a bag as he opts out at the end of the season. Regardless on how I feel about that, what's true is he's most deserving of getting a raise when you're seeing him perform the way that he is right now. Go back to 2022. Last time Edwin Diaz was the man, in the sense, had a career season outside of his 60-save season in 2018 with the Mariners. His biggest year yet as a New York Met. That gets him the $100 million bag on a 5-year contract. 2023, blow knee. Hate to see it. Is what it is. 2024, back with the Mets. Good, not great, but has some stellar moments down the stretch as we got, especially in a postseason play. Tapped in the velocity, was touching 101, 102 on the gun. He was ridiculous. Edwin Diaz this season has been Mr. Consistency. When you look at everything that's been awry with this Mets rotation and their bullpen this year, a Mets team that's utilized more pitchers than anyone else this season than any time in Major League Baseball history, with 46 and counting, what has held true has been the dominance and the consistency of Edwin Diaz, who's only blown a handful of saves all season long. So say what you will about the criticisms that we've had with Edwin in the past, but he proves yet again exactly why he is one of the best truly dominant closers in the game today. And the Mets are very fortunate to have him. I hope we can keep him beyond this season, but this is the kind of guy that we need to rely and depend on down the stretch for these final 3 games heading into potential playoff play, which would begin Tuesday, which I believe is when the wild card officially would begin there against those LA Dodgers, barring changes there in LA. Yes, I'm shaking in the boots at the thought of playing the Dodgers again in playoffs, but at the same time, I just want to make playoffs at this rate and just see what happens from there, and I think most of you guys can agree in that regard. So pitching, I am going with Edwin Diaz is my player of the series. Now, offensively, this is a great question, because we've seen a lot of offense from the Mets in 2 out of these 3 games in the series. So when we go back to game 1 in this series, who was the key standout offensively? It was 2 big swings that really stuck out. 1, you had a big game for Lindor, obviously. 2, you had a big game for Nimmo. 3, you had a big game for Alvarez. So this comes down to 2 players, both by the name of Francisco. Is it Lindor or is it Alvarez? And you know what, guys? I'm going to go with Francisco Alvarez, because even though the Mets lost yesterday, Francisco Alvarez is literally playing every single game for the Mets as he possibly can right now, when the man is more battered, batted and beaten up than anyone else that we have seen. With a broken left pinky, as well as a partially torn UCL that he needs surgery at the end of the season for his thumb, getting drilled constantly in the arm and the thigh, you name it, taking all the pitches that he has to take as a catcher that ricochet and wild pitch and does not look good, gets under the mask, it's always uncomfortable. With all the beatings that Alvarez takes, and for him to look as damn good as he did with his swings this series, that deserves massive kudos. He continues to tread on what we've seen with Alvarez, and Mad Team Parents, have a fantastic night. Thank you so much for the donations again. I appreciate that. To see Alvarez have 5 home runs in a 7-game span at Wrigley Field is no joke. That deserves a lot of credit there. So Alvy is going to be my batter of the series. An honorable mention will be Francisco Lindor, who had himself multiple home runs in this series. You can make arguments for some other batters too. Again, the Mets had plenty of offense in this series for the most part. They rolled over yesterday, but it's easy to roll over and die when you're already down 5-6 runs in your first 2-3 innings. They're not going to come back constantly the way that they had their largest comeback of the regular season in game 1 of this series, trailing back from initially 6-1 was the early deficit there for the Mets in that Cubs game 1 matchup. They get all the way back to win 9-7. Alvarez, while I know he was a bit of a defensive liability, I'm not here to even talk about his defense. I'm here to talk about solely his offense. That offense carried the way, but isn't for Alvy's bomb. The Mets probably don't win game 1. They don't have anything going in game 2. But to see Lindor do what he did, to see Alvarez do what he did, very, very important. Like I said, an absolute coin flip as to who I think you could pick there between Lindor and Alvarez, because they were the two that really were most steady in showing up this series. And just to double check as we take a look at yesterday as well, the production where we got it from outside of Alvarez, it was Soto. So yeah, don't want to forget that. So listen, it was a solo shot by Soto too, so that's garbage time. And there's one batter that I can say that I'm not mad at, but underwhelmed from this series. It easily has to be Pete Alonso. I mean, I really thought, and Joe, I love you too. Thank you so much for being a supporter, baby. You're a real one. Thank you guys to everybody hitting that like and subscribe button on your way as we're breaking down the latest victory in Mets land as the Mets take down the Cubs, win 8-5, and now have greater control of their future destiny in postseason play. Now still a full game up on the Cincinnati Reds. And this was a massive series victory, as I mentioned. But going back to how it was a big series victory, this I thought was really going to be a big series for Pete Alonso. Alonso entered the series with a 270 batting average, and over 700 slug, and a just under 1,200 OPS in career games at Wrigley Field. He has had a flair for the dramatic against the Cubs in this ballpark in many occasions. So to see Alonso not get a long ball was underwhelming. I really thought we were going to get it. I thought we were going to get him closer to 40 home runs on the season. Now Alonso will need to defer to facing the 3 best pitchers in that Marlins rotation, all of which have been stellar in different sample sizes against the Mets. Thankfully, the Mets have beat up 2 of the next 3 starters that they're going to see in Yuri Perez and Edward Cabrera, but they did get hosed by Mr. Sandy Alcantara for not 1, but 2 times already this season. So can we see Alonso smack a home run in each game and secure 40 home runs for our big number 20? We'll just have to wait and see. What we know in the meantime is that the Mets not only secure this series victory, not only is Alvarez the player of the series on the offensive front, and not only is the pitcher of the series going to be Mr. Edwin Diaz, but the Mets now have put themselves in a position, when you look at the 2 of their past 3 victories, even with McLean not being the sexiest today, you have to have at least, I think, a level of confidence to say that they're actually starting to show life that they haven't shown much this season. Yesterday was a really, really tall hill to try to climb. When you're down that much, that often, the offense is just not going to be there consistently. And that isn't just for the Mets. That goes for any team in Major League Baseball. I think we saw a lot of really good positives in this series. Negatives certainly continued on the defensive front. I didn't like how the defense looked in this series for the most part, mainly because of Mark Vientos at third base. I think Vientos reassured exactly why Brett Beatty has to start every single game at third base the next 3 days. If he doesn't, I think that's blasphemy. I think it was blasphemy to a degree that Alvarez wasn't even in the lab to start the game at DH today. But I also understand that's a hard thing to swing when you need to make sure that you have your catching option here. And 2, if Alvarez really felt well to play today, I don't think many would have just been like, oh yeah, we'll give you the day off. He's approaching every game, as he stated himself, Mendy, as if it's game 7 of the World Series. So if that is really how Mendoza feels here for the remaining stretch of games this season, then there's not a chance in hell that Alvarez was out of the lineup today without there being a really justified reason. It's the same guy that literally has multiple broken fingers basically right now and is playing through it just because he wants to be part of this team and be impactful still, knowing he needs to have surgery as soon as his playing season is over. So that is why I personally didn't give like out Mendy as much hell as maybe some others were on socials today. I'm usually the guy to do it, but today just didn't feel right because I honestly listened to someone who had commented last time I reacted before we found out more context about live decisions. That was to wait until you find out what Mendoza has to say. And I said, okay, I bit my tongue, I held it, and I waited until we found out word from Carlos Mendoza. And once Carlos relayed that, I'm like, okay, Alvy would have been in here if he really was able to be in here. And I think we can all probably agree there. So Alvarez not in the lab today wasn't even a problem. That's what makes this series victory that much more impressive and that much greater, in my humble opinion. So now that the Mets secure this series victory, let's take a look at a couple things. And that starts with a donation from Steve Lawn. Thank you, Steve, for the donation. I appreciate it. He states the following: Stanek, Raley, Helsley, Rogers, and Diaz. 10 innings, 0 earned runs, 3 walks, 4 hits, 12 strikeouts, 2 saves in the series. Yeah, the bullpen came to play. And the guys who needed to step up, stepped up. And the guy who stepped up quietly yesterday out of this Mets bullpen that you might forget about because you didn't care about that 10-3 defeat to the Cubs is Ryan Helsley going 2 scoreless effing innings. Can we appreciate that for what it is? Ryan Helsley effed around and he didn't find out. Ryan Helsley looks like he's actually him again. If Ryan Helsley pitches more like this, the Mets are setting themselves up brilliantly. And what if I told you that not only are the Mets getting great production from one flamethrower and right-hander Ryan Stanek, a second flamethrower and Ryan Helsley, but they're going to be getting a third, everybody. A third beginning potentially as soon as tomorrow. Because what did we call for this past week on the platform? Time to call up Dylan Ross. What are the Mets expected to do this series? Call up Dylan Ross. We're going to expand more on that in content tomorrow, everybody, so be on the lookout for it. But yes, Gary Cohen gave us a little sneak peek into what potentially could be happening this upcoming and final series of the year. Dylan Ross, who I saw live in person there against the Iron Bigs in the Lehigh Valley less than a week ago, he was fantastic in person, jaw-dropping. I was front row, so I had a decent seat, and I can tell you, Dylan Ross has all the makings of being a dominant reliever for this Mets team. The main problem with him, the big reason why he has not been here yet, has been his walk rate at the AAA level. He's been walking a little bit too many batters, and he's definitely a guy that if you get concerned with how Stanek has been and how Helsley has been, I don't know if he's going to instill a lot more confidence or faith in you than the other guys who have been here and been more established. But what we do know is that this guy has immense upside, flame-throwing, towering right-hander. More flamethrowers to add to the bullpen is never a bad thing, in my opinion, barring changes to see what he may or may not do in the coming days. So we will wait and see when that becomes official, everybody. But again, be on the lookout. We will expand on that more in content tomorrow. We'll talk a bit more as well on what's happening there with the Mets having made the decision to part ways with Jose Siri. I meant to talk about that with you guys today. Did not get a chance to, unfortunately, in a pre-recorded video, but we will touch on that and a bunch of other topics dropping tomorrow early in the day before we get set for that Marlins series Game 1 matchup. So be on the lookout for it, everybody, as well as, and I know you guys have been already, so thank you so much to everybody who has been doing exactly that. But guys, in case you guys have not seen already, you guys can check out my work every single day in the Bleacher Report app for Mets coverage and MLB-wide topics. So if you guys can take a look with me real quick, everybody, you guys will see right here, right now. This was the latest segment that I did from this past night's very frustrating loss. However, the good news is that the Mets won today. So this was my recap from this past day on the Mets being blown out of the rotation in shambles. It's a 2 to 3 minute video every single time we do them for BR. I will have one that I'll be recording as soon as we're done here. I'll give a nice little quick recap if you guys want to check out more of the short form recap content there with our great friends at Bleacher Report. Do so. I also have segments that I'll be dropping tomorrow in the Bleacher Report app for MLB wide coverage and for the Seattle Mariners and Yankees especially, as I had a big fun discussion on Cal Riley on if he is the man to win American League MVP after hitting that 60th home run on the same day that he helped the Mariners clinch the division for the first time since 2001. A miraculous season for Cal Riley, an anomaly of a season, an unprecedented season for the switch hitting catcher that I had a lot of fun to break down there with our great friends at Bleacher Report. So, as we hop back into here, what are some more things I want to talk about with each and every one of you today? As I mentioned earlier, I do just want to touch briefly on the offense because we always like to rehash the offense and give, a quick kind of breakdown, a little summary on how things are currently for them offensively. Lindor, 805 OPS, 267 average. A nice game for him again. Soto, 265 average, 927 OPS. Alonso, 271 average, 866 OPS. Vientos, 233 average, and a 699 OPS. Nemo, 264 average, 768 OPS. Trent's 226 average, 630 OPS. Beatty, 255 average, 750 OPS. Tyrone, 220 average, 595 OPS. Acuna, 234 average, 567 OPS. So that's what you got in the Mets offense right now. Mets pitching, I gave 6.5 out of 10 to McLean. I gave a 9 out of 10 for the bullpen. Mets offense grade today on a scale 1 to 10. Something that I haven't done much of this year, but I will do every game next season. I promise. It's just something that I focused more on with pitching this year than the offense. But the collective offensive grade, I'm going to give this Mets lineup today for having a total of 10 hits and a team expected batting average of 278 and scoring 8 runs. I'm going to give the Mets an offensive grade today of the same amount of runs that they scored, and that is going to be 8. Mets are going to be getting 8 out of 10 today. You could even go higher for them, but the reason why I'm not going as high as 8 is because we know that they could do greater than what we saw today offensively. We saw some really good individual performances, but we have seen games where they've really been far more spread out to warrant a 9 and a 10 grade. So I'm going 8 out of 10 for the offense, 6.5 out of 10 for McLean, and 9 out of 10 for the Mets bullpen, and that is Wardy's grades for the series finale. And the series as a whole, again, Francisco Alvarez is my batter of the series. We're going to get Edwin Diaz as our pitcher of the series, everybody. And I want to see from each and every one of you, to everybody watching live on a replay, what are your biggest takeaways from the series and the series victory? And looking ahead as we get set for that Cubs series, I definitely want to know what you guys have to say about that. I am also checking as we speak right now, knowing that Francisco Lindor has his 30-30 season. It's the 5th 30-30 season by a player this year, the most in a single season in Major League Baseball history. He joins J-Rod Julio Rodriguez, as well as PCA, I apologize. The club could grow greater. My apologies. I read that wrong from Bob Nightingale. Julio and PCA could enter those categories if Julio gets 2 stolen bags over the next couple of days and a PCA just gets 1 more home run. So either way, really impressive year. Makes sense with the base running being easier now than ever in Major League Baseball that you're seeing these kind of 30-30 seasons. But Francisco Lindor, as relayed, is just the second player in Mets team franchise history not to get a 30-30 season, but to do it twice as a New York Met, only joining Hojo Howard Johnson in that regard. So everybody, let's continue on the live show now to answer all your comments, questions, and concerns to all of our live viewers. I love doing that. I have so much fun interacting with our members and everyone else in between. Everybody watching on replay, we're going to be wrapping up the show now. So let me know your biggest takeaway from this very important, this very vital 8-5 series victory for the Mets in Chicago against those Cubbies. Let me know your pros, your cons, and everything in between and how you're feeling with this Mets team. And also let me know on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your confidence level in the Mets making postseason play? This goes for the live chat and to our replay viewers. Drop them down below. Spam it, everybody. Scale 1 to 10. It's easy to do. I want to see it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let's continue on the live stream. Everybody watching replay, let's go Mets, baby. Peace out.